This video is done by professionals. Don't do anything you see on the video because YouTube will be mad. Now, if you've been watching the news, you may have seen that we got hit with some tariffs recently.
So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less, so how can anybody be upset?
Well, maybe other countries did, but we're the ones who are going to be paying for them. From grow lights to nutrients, we could be really feeling the heat here. So in this video, I'm going to break down some of the impacts that tariffs may have on our home grow. Stay tuned. Now, if you're new here, my name is Rob, and we talk all things herb. And in particular, we're going to be going over how these tariffs that President Trump put in place may be impacting your garden. Now, whether you like Trump or you don't, that's irrelevant, and my personal opinion obviously is as well.
Fuck the federal government.
But as of the day of filming this video, he's added some crazy tariffs that may be impacting our garden. And honestly, I think it's going to be potentially startling for a lot of you who aren't hip to what's going on. So I have filmed this video 4 times, and within this period, these tariffs have changed consistently. The first time, I had a whole different mathematic equation laid out because the numbers were different. Then we got a 90-day pause, and then the tariffs were increased on China. So let's break down a short little timeline of how these tariffs have become a reality. In January, Trump pledges to overhaul trades with tariffs to protect US workers, setting the stage for action. Then in February, 10% tariffs on Chinese goods were announced, tied to a fentanyl and immigration concern, affecting $439 billion in imports.
The drugs continue to pour into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of people. We're losing substantially more than 100,000 people. I mean, dead. They're dead. The families are destroyed after that happens.
Then another 10% tariff layer was added on China, while Canada and Mexico were hit with 25% tariffs, later delayed for the USMCA compliant goods.
10 plus 10. In case, was there confusion on that? There was, sir. Okay. 10 plus 10, it's a second 10.
Then in April, Liberation Day executive order declared a 10% baseline tariff on all imports starting April 5th, plus reciprocal tariffs, 34% on China and 20% on the EU, effective April 9th. Then April 9th, the day after I filmed because I thought this was the numbers that we would be working with, Trump changed his mind.
Change of plans.
He decided to pause reciprocal tariffs for 90 days, dropping most to 10%, but hikes China's to 125% after Beijing's 84% retaliation on US goods. Then today, as I'm filming, the White House confirms China's tariff jumps to 145%. That's 125% base plus 20% fentanyl related. From January's trade vows to today's China showdown, our prices are skyrocketing, and unfortunately this is something that we as home growers really can't control. Now, the pass-through expense for consumers, including us growers, under Trump's 145% tariff on Chinese imports and the 10% baseline tariff on other countries like the EU and Canada, significantly lower than the tariff rate suggests, really. Research from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the National Bureau of Economic Research found that only 20% to 30% of tariffs on finished goods like grow equipment, specifically LED lights and fans, were passed on to US consumers. For example, if you're buying an LED light under these new tariffs, well, if your cost was, let's say, $150, they hypothetically should only raise by $43 to $65 if everything works as expected, bringing the price closer to $193 to $215. So what was once affordable for us is now becoming the same rate that it would be here in the States. But thankfully there's brands like AC Infinity who've already done pretty well at stocking up, so you don't have to worry too much about these tariff spikes on your end, especially if you jump on their 420 special, which is coming right up, and it's going to be an absolute banger. It's 20% off if you use code CLtv because it's 10% site-wide with no code, and then you stack my code, boom, and you're going to be leaving out there with 20% off, which right now, as things are a little bit tighter and potentially prices are going to go up, it's the opportune time to take advantage of it. And don't be a toilet paper shopper and be all crazy and buy everything so nobody else can. Get what you need. This is the time to do it. So again, discount code CLtv. You can scan this code over here to get right to their website or go to acinfinity.com. And there's plenty of other brands that have been doing that. For example, Apple flew 5 full flights of phones from China and India right before these tariffs hit. And a lot of other brands were on top of this before because this was announced and given plenty of time for a lot of brands to essentially accumulate a lot of inventory in the state. And this does help offset the costs, but it does put fear in the mind of limited inventory because when these brands do have to reorder, many of them are going to be getting things from China. And that's because things are just manufactured there. The cost is lower, the technology is more advanced, and oftentimes they're ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. I do feel it will help more companies put things in America, which will be great to be able to see American-made products in anywhere where you live. If you're in Australia, Canada, the EU, anywhere, something that's made local is better. It's good for your economy and it's good for your people. But at the same time, sometimes better technology does come from other countries or other states. And in that case, right now, we're gonna have to pay a little bit more for that. And now nutrients, that's not gonna cost anything different, right? Of course, because it's only the LED lights.
Wrong.
Turns out, honestly, a lot of these things, like everything we get, comes from China. 30% of our fertilizer in America, in the world, comes from China. It's where we source a lot of the things like our phosphorus, the potassium, organic inputs even like humic and fulvic acid, not stash blend. China is even one of the leading potash producers in the entire world.
Shit, not just the city, the world.
So again, unfortunately, we're going to be running into some companies still sourcing from China and not being able to keep these costs down because of tariffs. And again, it has no negative side to China. It's nothing against China. It just is these tariffs are going to be, it's going to be a headache for a lot of people, to say the least. 40% of the world's phosphate fertilizers come from China. They're exporting millions of tons. MAP and DAP, they're both common in bloom stage nutrients. China supplies 50% of the global chelated micronutrients used in premium nutrient lines. I mean, this is crazy when you dig into it. It's understandable why the stress is being put on the brands now when you think about this. A lot of our raw materials come from China. It's going to be very tough to be able to get by without having to increase these costs. Then for synthetic nutrients, you have things like urea or calcium nitrate even. Now you'll primarily see these in vegetative side of things, mainly nitrogen, and China produces 35% of the world's supply. 35%. So from nutrients to lights to grow tents to basic gear, the cost of things for a little while is going to be a little more expensive. Now luckily, because of the USMCA, we don't have to worry so much about things like peat moss or nutrients coming from Canada or Mexico. But we still may have to deal with things coming from overseas, depending on where the original sources are coming. Now in a case like LED lights, well, unfortunately, this is something that we have to deal with as a home grower. If you're getting LEDs, 9 times out of 10, they're coming from China. Even the components, I'd say 10 times out of 10, they're coming from somewhere in Asia, most likely China. Now in this case, it's going to really impact a lot of us home growers. Now how brands are avoiding these tariffs are rerouting production to different countries, Vietnam being one large country that people are moving often to, and Mexico. Now they're able to do this and still bypass some of the expenses that they're dealing with in terms of labor laws or restrictions in the environment. But oftentimes it's still going to be more expensive than what they'll be paying in China because they have to uproot the entire brand, the whole factory, and all of the employees, or hire new employees in a new location. Now, your personal opinions aside, this is going to be tough financially for a lot of us because we have to pay for this premium of American made or locally made. Now, brands that stockpiled, let's say $100,000 in gear are able to save $145,000 in expenses with tariffs. And these are expenses that I guarantee you would be pushed off onto us, the consumer. Now with things like nutrients, depending on where they're coming from, it's a lot easier for companies to be able to reclassify instead of calling it a fertilizer, calling it a soil additive. Now with this being the case, tariffs are definitely going to be impacting us, but it could potentially just be a short period of time. It just depends. And with things like this, we're kind of buying the news. Some people may want to stock up more now when it comes to things like nutrients or products that you may need for your garden that come from places like China. Others may just let it go and they're not worried about it because they're growing organically or they're growing outside. I really think it just depends on your personal setup or your mindset. Are these tariffs impacting you? Let me know below in the comment section. With that being said, it's your boy Rob from CLtv. Thanks for watching. Stay lifted. Peace. Growers who are looking for that secret sauce usually are just missing something from their garden. And to help with that, we bring you the Stash Blend Premium Plant Additive. Stash Blend brings beneficial bacteria, silicon, seaweed, humic acid, and has